bit to do a little bit more detail, but there won't be a great deal of detail because rot is really going to be the thing that provides the interest in this. All right, well, noise and debris.
I don't want to get debris.
Well,
Decision to make, or whether you let the stuff die back before you sculpt it, or better to sculpt it before it dies back?
when dealing with this, which is deciduous wood and unstable, I'm anticipating decay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I give it a look that to me is more naturalistic, believable than just a flush cut, and then let it rot from there.
Okay.
And let the tree kind of decide what the ultimate look will be, with the understanding that in something like this, it's going to go beyond what I've done, but the tree will set up that line where the live wood holds.
The barrier. Yeah.
Right. And here, this is that one that I was saying, where I'm trying to observe the callus material, and I want to hollow it out more, but that tool I was using,
It won't go in there.
well, it gets sloppy if you try to dig deeper than that with it. So I'll switch over to a different bit and just hollow that out a little bit more, and then we're probably done. And there's no need to go to great effort to try to make this look all believable and everything. The rot is going to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
And the things that eat decaying wood are going to do that. And you trust to the plant to set up its own line of defense to keep that from being something that just, destroys the tree. It won't destroy the tree. It may actually hollow out to some degree, but from my standpoint, that's a plus. That's a feature. That's not a problem. That's a good thing that happens. It can be a little random, and so if you're into a high level of control, that might not suit you, but it has its advantages.
But you wouldn't go to the extent of applying a fungicide?
No,
Do you get extra
I don't.
lichens to grow in your trunks?
But if that's something you want to do, you can.
I got one.
They don't touch you.
Good.
Now, when moisture gets in that hole,
Yes.
it's going to promote rot.
Yes.
will the tree come up with a defense inside?
Yes,
too?
yes.
So you
Well,
don't have to-
unless it doesn't, and then the rot might extend down into the core.
But you don't have to provide an exit hole for birds.
No, I mean, you can if you want, but I trust to the tree to set up defenses. If that's outside of your comfort zone, like you want to make sure that it doesn't do this or that, then you can try other things. But
I've got several cypresses that I did so the water would drain, but that wood is so soft, it'll rot in a heartbeat.
I'm going to let the tree determine how to handle that. And if it rots, it's okay. It could, this is what I've noticed too in deciduous trees. In bonsai, the dead wood is almost always done on coniferous evergreens. But in the forest, any number
of dead wood.
Of deciduous trees with dead wood, you also get cavities, you get big openings.
Cankers.
It's all interesting. It's all interesting. Now, if you have a very narrow idea of what looks good, then you're going to say, well, I don't want that. I don't want rot on my tree. I don't want, a big gaping hole in my trunk. And I'm not suggesting that every time that happens, it's a great thing. It's not. Sometimes it can just be ugly and unfortunate, but very often it can be the very thing that makes the tree worth looking at twice. You look at it and say, wow, look at that, because it's something out of the ordinary. And you gain a respect for how resilient these things are. I'm not talking about bonsai per se, although they have that characteristic, but it's really inherent in trees, woody plants. They have the ability to withstand extensive damage, recover, and go on living. And that process is the very thing that creates the most interest when you regard trees in an aesthetic way. It creates drama. Now, a tree that's out in the pasture and has a nice, easy life and a full round crown and it has no, holes in it or anything like that, that can be very nice too. It tells a different story in terms of drama, visual interest, the story of survival that human beings inherently find appealing. That's a quality that deciduous trees are really well set up to provide us if you give them the opportunity to do so. And that's what this is about. It's about giving the tree the opportunity to develop its character, to contribute in it. We're not telling it, we're not being dictatorial and saying, well, this is, my deadwood feature and look at what a great carver I am. That's not the intent here. And, hats off to those people who do fabulous carving. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the look that you want. We're aiming for something different. And it shouldn't be, this should not be confused with what's typically done in bonsai with coniferous evergreen trees.
What's the probability of you opening it up to insect invasion?
Yeah, that can happen. And sometimes, oftentimes, most times, you're going to respond to that with some pesticide to stop them from doing what they're doing. But I have a really neat red maple that's got a big opening in its trunk, and it's partially hollowed out, and it's got the most fantastic carving in it, highly detailed, and it was done, that carving work was done by the jaws of insects. It was termite infested, and the termites just ate through, and I kept watching them, and when it got to the point where I thought, that looks really good, then I got rid of them. I destroyed them, right? And then I treated the wood with wood hardener, so that I wouldn't lose all that nice effect that they had given it.
What is wood hardener?
Well, in effect, you're injecting the air spaces in the decaying wood with
acrylic.
plastic,
Oh, okay.
acrylic or
Yeah.
some kind of polymer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, it's usually an acrylic.
Yeah.
Minwax puts one out. That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Like
Yeah.
that stuff I use to fill in those knot holes in the
I'd like you to have this, Rob.
Hey, no, you almost got it to where I wanted it to be.
You know what? It's a fitting gift. It's about as twisted as he is.
See, you're almost there.
I'm glad you guys are all friends.
I hope this helps.
Somebody were
Does this
listening,
help?
listening in.
Yeah.
Because then the only thing is I would probably cut this down to here.
Mm.
You have two choices over here, because I'm looking, this is way out there. I would probably cut it right here,
Mm-hmm.
because then you have the taper and still let this thing go up.
Yeah, but I can always do that.
I know, but you forget, because you're older than me. So I'm just trying to help you.
I'm going to throw a few wires on here, very broad and simple, just to redirect a few key pieces.
What's left? You can't bend those big ones.
Right, I don't want to bend that.
That's good then.
Yeah, but this I want to bend, and this I want to bend, and we can use one wire for both of them, and we put it on loosely, right? It's got to be tight to a certain extent so that we can actually make the branch do what we want it to, but we're not putting it on to the same degree of tightness that we would if this was wiring that, you know, was going to be on the tree when it was being shown. You know, this isn't show wiring, this is training wire, and the fact that it's very visible is not a concern to me anyway.
Not you.
When we bend,
Where does this go in you for keeping back at the Arboretum?
Have some?
back in that hoop house that's out behind the greenhouse, yes.
Okay.
And this is, I'm glad you brought it up, because this is a feature of my work, my job, is that everything I do is out in the public square, so to speak, you know? If you do something and it works out badly, it's hidden in your backyard, nobody's gonna see it, right? And then you can quietly dispose of it at night when nobody's looking. Everything I do is out in public view. And that means things that are long-range projects and have, you know, a considerable way to go. And it means things I've been working on for 15 years and, you know, or maybe just beginning to look like something. It's all out there for people to see, you know, comment on if they care to, whatever.
You know, as a matter of fact, when we were there this summer, and you opened up the greenhouse way in the back lot
Yes.
there,
Yes.
which I appreciate, was nice. You had one in there that really, really caught my eye. It was gorgeous. It was a group planting, but the way you had the soil arranged, there was like a bare spot, it looked like a river running down.
Yeah.
You know, that one really impressed me. I like that.
That's, you know, when I think of that kind of thing, I think of the Chinese Penjing. They do that on a regular basis. But I like their stuff a lot, especially the landscape stuff that they do. And, you know, we've developed a lot of tray landscapes. It's a distinguishing feature of our collection. And, you know, that's much more in the Chinese tradition than it is in the Japanese tradition. But in our case too, it's not either of those traditions. It's our own thing. So the people who say, "Oh, that's a penjing," it is not. We don't have any penjing. We have a couple of pieces that were made by Mr. Zhao, and so you could say, well, those are penjing because it was made by him, and he's one of the world's foremost authorities in penjing.
Engineer.
But, you know, he worked on it that one time, setting it up and doing the overall design. And then, you know, for the last dozen years, I've been growing it. And anyone who grows bonsai knows that they're changing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the person who holds the scissors who's making those choices. And that takes nothing away from Mr. Zhao, but I would hesitate to call it a penjing because I have no training in penjing. So it would only be through dumb luck that I could shape it anything like the way that he would have shaped it. And it's not my intention to try to do that either, you know. I'm working off of what he started, but
Right.
as the person who's holding the scissors, what I'm thinking and how I see things is going to have effect. Yeah, this is, so somebody pointed this out, it might have been Dana, was saying that she didn't really like the configuration of this. You know, there was that, this is where I had that choice to make, right? There was a smaller one coming out here, or I could go with this one. I went with this one. And seen from a certain angle, this becomes a little bit visually congested, because this thing kind of visually bumps into this when you view it from that perspective. But it's okay. You know, some of that I don't mind. And it doesn't distract me enough to say, oh, I can't live with that. There are things that might not be ideal, but we can live with them. And that's how, you know, that's how we get along in the world. If everything has to be just the way we want it, then we're going to be unhappy most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time you don't know what you want.
Well, that's right. Sometimes we think we know, and then later on we find out, well, I didn't really want that. Okay. So that's where it stands today. That's all there is to do on it today. And it's set up now for the next stage. Big, big change of life for this plant, huh? Out of the ground, into a pot again, big pot, but you know, that's the start of getting it down to a small pot. And then decisions made about the basic structure, the elemental structure of the tree, off of which now we produce all the secondary growth and fill it out. You know, there's a long way to go, but it's a maple. It's going to grow fast, and so not so far away as it might seem. What takes the longest to build? The trunk. And the crown can take a while too, but you know, we'll have a lot to work with. And again, it'll be a conjunction, parts from this, parts from this, parts from this, and all are going to form a crown. Tree might not be ultimately any higher than where my hands are, but it'll be broad. It'll have a broad crown.
Fill in.
Yeah, a lot of filling.
From
in.
today forward,
Yes.
how long would you say this would be a displayable bonsai?
I don't know. That's guesswork. You
Yeah,
know.
of course it is.
No less than 5 years, I don't think, and no more than 10 years. I don't think it'll take 10 years, but I'm guessing.
Okay.
Hard to say.
All right.
Sometimes things go your way and you get there faster, and sometimes, you know, everything goes wrong and it takes longer.
Or the tree dies.
Well, yes. I don't anticipate that as
Right.
coming out of anything I've done to it today.
You haven't done enough hardship to the root system to cause that.
Shouldn't be, I think, John, with that second tier of roots. I'm playing it safe, you know.
I know you are.
So I think the tree has a very high chance of surviving and prospering from this point forward.
Yeah.